Welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast, where we interview some of the most interesting people that have said yes to opportunities in their life. We hope that through these stories, you can learn to create your own destiny by saying yes along the way. Join us as we explore the new series covering topics such as passion, integrity, and hard work. I'm your host, Jim Riley, and I hope you enjoy these interviews as much as I do. I believe that everyone has an important message worth hearing. Hello and welcome to the Answer Yes podcast. You know, one of the cool things about having my own show is I get to pick my own guests. And when I see somebody interesting or something that is worth having a topic of discussion about, I make the call. And today, Ethan Buck, a fellow member on the Lion's Den, is on the show. Ethan, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me, man. Looking forward to it.
Dude, you got this video on your Instagram 5 years ago versus now. I mean, no offense, but you were a little scrawny guy, and now you're a beast.
Yeah, and prior to being a little scrawny guy, I was a 300-pound fat guy.
Really?
Yeah.
How did you have such an up and down, and now back to where you probably feel the best at?
Yeah, it's a long story, but essentially, growing up as a fat kid, throughout my 20s, I was heavy alcohol and drug abuser, occasionally even homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Toured the world in punk rock bands. I had punk rock bands, and we got to see the world, which is pretty cool. But that led to a lot of bad habits, living in a van, partying every night and stuff. And eventually I ballooned up. So around the age of 27, 28, I got to really close to 300 pounds. I remember seeing 296 on the scale, actually almost crying.
Wow.
So I had to do a lot of self-reflection and asking myself if what I was doing was sustainable, because I was starting to feel the negative ramifications of all that self-destruction. So I pulled the trigger, and I honestly, I lost 100 pounds pretty quickly, which is an amazing accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back, I did the wrong way. And I see a lot of people making those same mistakes. I did all the fad diets. I worked out like a crazy neurotic person. And after losing 100 pounds, literally I got down to 185,
mm-hmm.
so a little bit over 100 pounds. I just looked like a smaller version of my previous fat self. I became, the term is skinny fat, right?
Yeah.
Sarcopenia. Your muscles atrophy and you lose fat, but you also lose water weight and muscle at the same time. And I see people making this mistake every day.
Mm-hmm.
So frustrated and confused. I kind of tried a few things here and there. I just didn't know what I was doing. This is over 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally just hired a coach who's look, I'm spending all this time and effort trying to figure this out. I'm putting in the energy, and I'm not going anywhere. What worked for me previously isn't going to work again. So I hired a coach, and then that person helped me become a trainer eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So then it got me on the right path, and here I am today helping people all around the world doing what I love doing.
Yeah. It's funny when you tell your story and you say 12 years ago. Let me tell you, I don't fall into the skinny fat category, but I'd like to have more muscle mass. If you told me, hey Jim, if you gave me 10 years, you'd be probably where you. It doesn't seem like that long ago when you're in a lifetime and you're in your 50s and you realize the results that you can have, with some consistency. The body is just so fascinating on how we can bounce back, be resilient, and really be what we want to be if given the time, effort, and energy. And like you said, some know-how, right?
Yeah, we're a lot more durable than we think. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about your punk rock days, but my punk rock days in the 80s, I was pretty hard on my body. You wonder if you're ever going to come out of that, right?
Yeah, we're talking literally. So I had usually 2 to 3 bands at every given time. I lived in Eastern Europe, so I toured a lot there. I lived in Czech Republic in Prague.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're talking 4 to 6 week tours, a show every night. Now, when you show up and you pull into a town, you're playing a concert, it's the fans, the people that are there, it's their night off. They want to party with you, and you've got to entertain, right? And then you come home and you've got this addiction essentially, and you continue those habits at home. And then I was promoting shows, I was working at festivals, so I was always around this environment.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely took its toll on me, and I'm pretty convinced that it has long-term effects that you'll never completely reverse, but we do what we can today, right?
Yeah. Sometimes when I have an element in my 50s, I think back is like, is this a result of one too many in the 80s? Like, is this something like start thinking about all the things you did wrong, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think about that a lot, actually. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, and I know you're a one-on-one coach, and I hope that people will look you up after hearing this show for your services. But let's just say, here's the 300-pound guy. He's just lost in his head. He's lost his way. He feels helpless. Where do we start with somebody like that? What is step number one? Because they're totally defeated on all levels.
Yeah, yeah. I with most clients, I like to start with just creating a lot of awareness in the beginning. I believe in the term awareness precedes change. If we're not fully aware or have not come to terms with what got us to that state, right? Being very overweight, very unhealthy, odds are we're not going to be able to change it and dial it in completely to its full extent.
Mm-hmm.
So, instead of saying, hey man, you're overweight, just eat less and move more, the general, that's like telling an alcoholic just to quit drinking, right? Yeah. It's not help, right?
Yeah.
I've never heard of an overweight person hearing that advice and going, oh geez, really? That's all I gotta do? And then just do it phenomenally, like perfectly. Yeah. It doesn't work. So, conversations, why they want to achieve these goals and kind of peel back those layers, right? Why is it important to you? And a lot of times you'll hear like superficial goals. I just want to look better. And then when you dig a little bit deeper, ultimately, I'm telling you, every single person, I don't care if you're jacked and lean already or if you're 300 pounds and overweight and weak, ultimately it comes down to confidence, a sense of self-accomplishment and happiness. Mm-hmm. Right? So we need to get down to those core reasons why. So we create awareness as to why they got to where they're at and why they want to accomplish those goals. And we can do that through various means, tracking food or just taking a quick look at their life, like maybe a 5 to 7 day log of what their daily habits look like in terms of movement and all that kind of stuff. And then we take it from there. So we meet them where they're at instead of throwing them a random diet plan or a random program that somebody wrote for somebody else and just hope that it works, right? That's just kind of throwing random things at people and then hope that it sticks. And in the end, it doesn't really work that way long term.
Yeah, I love this language that you're using, and I've been hearing a lot more of this style of teaching and coaching because we realize our problems are really in our head first. And getting that right, you talk about what are your habits and why do you have those habits. If you're binge eating Cheetos, obviously there's something else in your life that's driving you to binge eat those Cheetos, right, on the couch watching a show or whatever. And changing those habits first. I'm a big fan of the 75 Hard program. You're probably familiar with the group that we're in, or have you seen that before?
Yeah.
And what I like about it though is it focuses on your mental toughness first. A result of that mental toughness comes the physical fitness portion. But so as you start to transition somebody and getting their mind fit, are they hitting the weights first? Are they hitting the diet first? Is it in the kitchen, a combination of both? Where are you taking that client?
Yeah, it's kind of an individual process, but here's the thing: you kind of have to give or find this fine line between what the client wants and what the client needs, right?
Yeah.
The client wants results yesterday, right? I signed up, tell me what to do, where's the results, right? Immediately. And when you point out to them like, hey, you've probably tried these approaches before and you wanted, these fast results. And ultimately, maybe you achieved some results, but you never kept them because you were rebounding because the approach you took was unsustainable. It was too extreme, like these fad diets or like 30-day challenges, all this kind of madness that's out there. So yeah, you could achieve some results, but if you don't keep them, that's not a long-term successful plan, right? So, finding that line between the fact that they really want that, and then what they actually need is kind of a give and take process for the first couple of weeks until we get to educate the client a little bit better. Because my coaching services are pretty interactive for the first 90 days. We really want to make sure people are educated to understand why they're doing everything. Because really at the end of the day, the objective is to have the client walk away someday with the skills, confidence, and knowledge to do this on their own forever, right?
Yeah.
hey, you spent a lot of time with a professional. You know what you're doing now. Congratulations, you've graduated, right?
Yeah.
But that first kind of process, I kind of created like a 3-pillar system, to be honest, because what I really noticed in the beginning is what most people need is more than just a program and a diet. So that first pillar in that system is really just an assessment phase. So when I get to know them a little bit better, and that pertains to how they move, what makes them tick, what their roadblocks have been, what they are currently, then I can kind of get in and figure out what's most likely going to work for this person. Now, it's big on nutrition, right? Because that's the main thing, especially if you're a weight loss client or strength and performance is your goal, gaining muscle. Like nutrition is always at the forefront of your successes here. Mm-hmm. How you train is also very important. But, I'm leaning into nutrition a little bit more while giving them some programming. And then when we get dialed in and we're in a place that we can target specific goals, that's when we go heavy on specific weight training goals or manipulate nutrition so that they can achieve those goals, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. So we're kind of giving a bit of both, but at the same time going, hey, let's allow you to push yourself a little bit, but just keep in mind that going from 0 to 100 is probably not going to get you there very quickly.
Yeah. I want to talk about that briefly because, it's February now. Most people started their New Year's Eve diet fad, and they're probably already dropping off, if trends are true every year, which we know they are. You mentioned these fat loss programs, these 30 days, these meal plan programs that people jump on, and they cycle them, and they're up and they're down. I understand it, but tell my listeners again how important it is to look at long-term sustainable plans like what you're talking about, your 3 pillars, and putting in the work. It doesn't happen overnight. And I know our human nature is we want it now, but when you can build out a great sustainable program, the results are much greater and last much longer. But please just touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. It's kind of difficult because with certain things, I think that perfection or mastery is great, right? That's a good virtue to hold. But when it comes to human physiology and the emotional relationship we have with our bodies, because most people tackle their fitness goals through an emotional standpoint, not a logical one.
Yeah.
Men too. Men won't admit it, but it's fucking true. So, the simple term, everyone's probably heard it. If it took you 10, 15 years to get here, you're not going to erase this in like a month, right? You're not going to erase all those. Yeah. Actually, I tweeted this yesterday. A 30-day challenge isn't going to fix 30 years of shit habits, right?
No, it's not.
And the amount of people that it triggered, but ironically, none of them were fit, right? So I like, when I was talking about mastery though, I liked the idea of consistency over perfection, right? Odds are, if we lay out a very simple, basic plan for someone to stick to, and I'm talking like just the few boulders that matter the most, we cut through the clutter and we get down to what matters the most. If they can stay 80, 85, 90% consistent with that, they will succeed long-term, right? Mm-hmm. And that, 10, 15% off the plan allows for things like date nights, social events, daughter's birthday party, your weddings, whatever, vacations. When people take these really rigid approaches, I throw rocks at these things on social media all the time. I make fun of all these like extreme diets and stuff all the time. When people take these really rigid approaches, they've committed and they see results pretty quickly. A lot of times it's just water weight dropping and muscle glycogen, which is really important stuff to keep in your body if you want to train effectively. They're excited, right? And you don't get that with a reasonable approach that's going to last you a long time, right? Mm-hmm. It's like the tortoise wins the race kind of thing. So at the end of the day, you can drop a lot of weight really quick, and that's really desirable and sexy and cool. And it's really tough to promote this thing that's actually more important, habits and seeing the long-term vision, right?
Yeah.
Now, for some people, say someone's like morbidly obese, it's probably good for them to get pretty rigid for a second and get some of that body weight off, right? But